Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. It is the game day preview for this weekend's action happening in the Allianz National Football League. There's a whole host of games to discuss to run through this weekend in the Allianz National Football League. 16 games in total, the same as every other weekend, I suppose, in the Allianz National Football League. And I mean, you've got Dublin and Mayo, one of the crunch rivalries down the years, one of the games, you know, we're talking about. You know, Dublin and Mayo, the most views that have ever come from this YouTube channel have been from Dublin and Mayo games. And I hope that it's the same this weekend. But for the right reasons. Not for Mayo absolutely trashing Dublin or something like that. But we'll get on to that a little bit later. It is the game day preview. It is just myself today, yours truly here. Myself, Aaron Prendergast, here as always on the channel. Just myself today because well, yeah, I've been feeling a bit under the weather in the past couple of days, you know, a bit of the man flu, shall we say, or a bit of the, yeah, you know, who knew before the other big virus that was around, there was actually such thing as a cold. And that's what I've had in the past couple of days. So that's why there was no hurling review show, which was cancelled on Monday. And I wasn't too sure how I was going to be fixed for this podcast today. So I've decided, you know, we'll just do it by myself rather than having to bring guests on and cancel and all the rest. So yeah, just myself today, but there is a whole host of games to run through anyway, and I suppose we'll crack on with Dublin and Mayo a little bit later. But Kerry and Donegal, first of all, this is the first game of the weekend that we're going to discuss. And do you know what it is? It's an interesting one, isn't it, between these two? Because Kerry these two at one stage, you know, if you think back to 2019 when these two played each other in that Super 8s game in Croke Park, you were thinking Donegal look like the team now that's going to make that extra step up. You know, they had their moment, obviously, when they won the All-Ireland in 2012. Some of those players have moved on, retired, gotten older. Some of the players are obviously still there. But the likes of your McFaddens and whatnot have obviously moved on. And like Neil McGee's, players like that have obviously gotten a lot older. They brought through a new crop of players, and you felt like, okay, they're going to take that step up now and maybe challenge for an All-Ireland. And when you seen them perform against Kerry in 2019 in that Super 8s game, I thought, you know what, they're ready. They're ready now. They're here. Declan Bonner has them in the right direction. They beat Tyrone earlier in the year as well. And then, you know, from there on in, we really seen probably the downside of Donegal go out and lose to Mayo. And it seems like every time Donegal have a big performance, it's followed by a lackluster performance. 2020 is a perfect example when they had, you know, absolutely blown Armagh out the gate and then went and lost to Cavan in the Ulster final. So yeah, you know, maybe both sides haven't lived up to expectations really since 2019, 2020, when a lot of people would have expected that it would have been one of these two that would have been there to capitalise when the Dubs messed up. But I don't think anyone is doubting Kerry's ability. I mean, still have a whole host of talent, a whole host of quality all across the board, a whole host of top-class players. And, you know, they haven't gotten over the line yet, and they haven't made the big breakthrough yet. But I think if there was any one of these two that you would fancy to make the breakthrough in 2021 or 2022, I should say, it definitely would be Kerry. A little bit, you know, caused concerns. You know, I watched the Sigerson Cup final last night, and I thought David Clifford looked very leggy, tired. Maybe a game too many, in my opinion. It was very tough conditions. I don't think he had a terrible game. I've seen some people say he was disastrous or he's poor. I think maybe his standards are just set so high. And I think you need to forget that he's only human. You know, he is only human. There's only so many games that he can play week in, week out or whatever. So, you know, it wasn't his best game by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think he was terrible. And I think, you know, with the conditions and all the rest, it was tough. And, you know, he did look a little bit tired, and he probably didn't get enough ball as well. I think NUIG just sort of controlled the tempo, controlled the play, were very good in possession and didn't really allow UL to get their hands on the ball too much. But I would be wondering, like, I think David Clifford started nearly 10 plus games in 2022 this year. Tony Brosnan's played a lot of game time. He's going to have to rotate at some point. You can't just keep going with the same team throughout the entirety of the league and then into the championship, because there is that risk of burning yourself out. And I wonder is this a game where he rotates a little bit, because they have options in the squad. Paul Gainey's looks very good so far. You could potentially have, you've obviously got Darren Moynihan and Sean O'Shea, but maybe Stephen O'Brien comes back into the starting lineup. Tony Brosnan didn't play against Dublin, so maybe he'll start in this game. I would expect a little bit of rotation, but I still think there's enough quality in Kerry there to get this victory, with it being at home as well, in their own backyard. You would fancy Kerry to win this one. I think Donegal, I like the like of Shane and Conor O'Donnell, who's come into the side, but obviously Michael Murphy's hamstring injury is a big one, and he's been struggling from injuries in the past couple of seasons, so it's hard to really know where he's at, in all honesty, and I don't think he'll be risked too much in the league with championship on the horizon. And let's not forget, Donegal play Armagh in the first game of the championship, so there's no, it's not like, with all due respect, Kerry and Munster or Dublin and Leinster, where they can sort of ease their way through. Like they'll need their best players available for that game, because we've seen how good Armagh have been. So yeah, look, for Donegal, it's going to be a tough one for them, going to a team as good as Kerry, going away against Kerry, and I think it will be tough for them. So I think Kerry will just about edge this one. I reckon they'll have enough and win the game by, I suppose, let's say 3 points. I think that's a fair enough assumption. Armagh and Monaghan, and this is another game where, I was talking a bit about maybe teams having a risk of a burnout, or teams maybe sort of running out of steam or running out of energy. Maybe Armagh might be something similar, if they're not careful. They've started the league really, really well. They've won their opening 2 games, obviously, against Dublin and Tyrone, and they've won them very, very convincingly. I know Tyrone finished the game with 11 men, but the game was already over at that point anyway against Armagh. So they've looked brilliant. They've looked absolutely brilliant so far, Armagh. They've looked fantastic. And yes, Rian O'Neill is getting all the credit in the world, and he's getting all the hype, but I don't think it's just about him as well with Armagh. I think Tiernan Kelly's looked good. I think Rory Grugan's been fantastic. He's been a great servant for Armagh down the years. Jamar Hall as well is another, very, very positive player in that Armagh team. And, you still have Turbo to come back into the team. You still have Ross McQuillan to come back into the team. So for Armagh, it's looking very, very good. And their midfield's looked impressive as well, with Mackin in midfield, Jarlio Burns in around the fence, and obviously since Jason Duffy's come back in as well. So, Armagh have got a very well-rounded team. But again, there is that worry where, and I suppose it's an interesting one, and maybe some Armagh fans can let me know, maybe live here in the comments, or maybe if you're watching after, let me know in the comments down below. I think if Armagh go full strength for the entirety of the league, I think they could probably win it. I think they could get to the final, and I think they could win it, because I think the other team that could probably get to a league final is either Kerry or Mayo at this moment in time. And even at that, they'll probably both rotate quite a bit. So there's an opportunity for Armagh to go all the way to a league final and win it. But, if you go all the way to the league final and you win it, and then maybe you exhaust yourself and get knocked out in the Ulster Championship, you know what? It's an interesting one. It'd be interesting to know what Armagh fans would really rather there, because I think, you'd rather finish mid-table in the league and maybe show a little bit of inconsistencies here and there, but then be good in Ulster and maybe go on a run and get to an Ulster final, if not win it. So there is some permutations there for Armagh. I think one thing is for certain now, they're not going to get relegated. They've beaten Dublin and Tyrone. They're definitely not getting relegated. There's no doubt in my mind about that anymore. And I do think we'll see Kieran McGeeney maybe rotate a little bit more now in the league, because, they've set the bar. They've tested themselves against the big teams. And I don't think there's as much need to I suppose, go as strong as what they have. In terms of this game, though, look, I still think they'll probably have enough to beat Monaghan anyway, even if they do maybe rotate a little bit. Monaghan haven't started Conor McManus in the league too much so far this year. I think with Monaghan, they just don't really have, like, Jack McCarron's a good player when you get him ball and you get him on the pitch. Rory Woods and Aaron Mulligan look like two good players coming through there as well. And we know the influence of Kieran and Darren Hughes, and obviously Rory Beggins, just almost a joke of a goalkeeper in a good way, but the fact he gets forward and everything and contributes with points, I mean, it's it kind of nearly reminds me of when you're playing FIFA with your mates and you start, trying to dribble the pitch with the goalkeeper or something like that. It's crazy stuff from Rory Began at times. But, you have to admire the quality of Monaghan. Like they seem to keep sticking in there. They're a dogged team. They're a hard team to beat. Monaghan will obviously have taken confidence in beating Armagh in Ulster last year. But I think even with maybe, it's a hard one to know with Armagh. And I think maybe some Armagh fans can let me know in the comments down below. Do you rotate for this game? Do you go strong for the majority of the league? Because we have seen it in the past where teams go so strong in the league and then burn themselves out in the championship. Kerry is the perfect example in 2020, for example. Albeit there was a lockdown kind of in between, but they went strong enough for their two league games when they came back from the lockdown. We've seen Dublin do it a little bit in the past, although Dublin went on to win all Irelands, but we've seen it in hurling as well with specific teams. Galway, I think, was an example that year. They got to a league final. So we've seen it with teams where they go very, very hell for leather in the league, burn themselves out a little bit by the championship. It's a very hard thing to do. So yeah, maybe for our Armagh fans, they can let me know in the comments down below, how do you think you'll approach this game? But I think given the form that you're in, given the confidence, given the teams that you've beaten, I think you'll have enough to win this game by, we'll say, 2 points. So yeah, comment coming in there. Bad Dub says, go strong for this game. Monaghan is a team we don't like to lose to. Yeah, maybe that's a fair point. Monaghan are obviously one of your rivals. And you don't want to give them extra ground, and you don't want to give them maybe unnecessary confidence. And it might be one of them things as well where you sort of want to, I think another defeat for Monaghan, it looks more and more like relegation is looming, which would definitely be I suppose better from an Armagh point of view. Tyrone and Kildare. Do you know what? This is a weird one to call, because Tyrone have obviously got their four players who were sent off in the Armagh game all suspended. That hasn't been upheld. Michael McKernan, Padraig Hampsey, Peter Hart, and can't remember the other one now off the top of my head, but four very important players. Obviously, I think Kieran McGeary is the other one. 4 important players missing from a Tyrone point of view. You're talking about, four, their whole back line is almost going to be ripped to shreds. And this is a huge game for Tyrone. It really, really is, because with those players missing, with the fact they haven't looked particularly great so far this year, they've obviously had a couple of players that have left the panel. Colin McShane's looked good so far, I felt, for Tyrone. Like, he kicked 7 points against Armagh. Haven't seen Darren McCurry in that same form just yet. We're still probably waiting for him to kick into gear. Same with maybe Noel Sludden as well. But just looking at it, obviously McGeary's, you're going to have your fullback and your cornerback out for this game, and Padraig Hampsey and Michael McKernan, which is two massive players. Peter Hart out as well. So I think Kildare are going to smell the bacon going into this one. I really do. I think they're going to see this as a massive opportunity. And I think, if Tyrone were to lose this at home in their own backyard to Kildare, they've obviously they didn't beat Monaghan on the first day out, and Monaghan would be the other team I think a lot of people are looking at towards maybe being relegated. Tyrone still have to play. Yes, Dublin are in a bit of a mess at the minute, but they still have to play Dublin. Maybe Dublin might get their act together by then. Who knows? They still have to play Kerry. They still have to play Mayo and Donegal, who, although they beat last year, have tended to give Tyrone as good a run a game as anyone. So there is a worry for Tyrone. Like, if they slip up in this game, they could get relegated. There really, really is. There's no doubt about it. And yes, I know Tyrone last year looked poor enough in the league and then went on to win the All-Ireland, but it's still a backward step going down to Division 2, and then you run the risk of, you need a great championship to sort of save your season. Whereas if Tyrone were to finish mid-table, get to an All-Ireland semi-final, I don't think it'd be the end of the world, in all honesty, because you've still got a whole host of talent and some good players coming through like Dara Canavan, Rory Canavan, whatnot. So, but yeah, it's a big game, and look, Kildare have looked good so far this year. I've liked the addition of Paddy Woodgate, good player in there. Daniel Flynn hasn't scored so far, but he's been involved, and he's almost playing more of a playmaker role now as well. When he starts kicking points and goals, Kildare's performances are probably going to go up another level. Still have Derek Kirwan to come back in at some point as well. So Kildare are in a good place, but it's one of them like where it's very hard to say they'll go to Healy Park and win, even with those players missing, because you just feel like Tyrone surely and Brian Dooher, Fergal Logan, like surely they know that this is a game they have to win. Like they have to win this game. This is almost like a championship level game in many ways, because you lose this, you put yourself under so much pressure then in terms of the relegation battle. And then, your games against your Dublin and your Kerry suddenly mean that bit more, and you need to take points from them games. So, and they might need to take points from them games anyway. But yeah, look, I still think Tyrone have enough quality with some of the players even to come in there. You're probably going to be looking at maybe Dara Canavan coming in there, maybe potentially. We'll see what options they have in their full back line to come in. But yeah, I just think Tyrone are going to turn up for this one. I think it'll be very close though, maybe a point or two in it. But yeah, I don't know. But then again, I feel like Kildare, like it's just a huge chance for them to go to Healy Park. Do you know what? We're going to go for a draw. I feel like that's the safe bet here. I feel like it's going to be a better performance from Tyrone than what we've seen in recent weeks. But I think with those suspensions, Kildare will maybe have an extra 5 to 10% about them to cause Tyrone a couple of problems. So we'll go for a draw. And then Dublin and Mayo. Well, oh Christ, here we go. I mean, I nearly want to skip over this one in many ways, but look, I mean, this is the game of all games, isn't it? This is Dublin and Kerry might be the El Clasico of Gaelic football, but this really is this has been the game of the last 10, 15 years. I mean, this is, you think of everything in these games, the All-Ireland finals, the semi-finals, obviously the game last year, the memories, the fights, late drama, late points, own goals, penalties, disastrous challenges, all sorts of madness, brilliant goals, brilliant moments. You can nearly create a top 10 GAA moments from Dublin and Mayo games down the years, and it would probably live up to, just some brilliant moments between these two down the years. And look, in terms of this game itself, I suppose from a Dublin point of view, you'd expect a response. I don't think it's been as bad maybe as what some people have made it out to be. I think some people are saying, oh, Desi should go and all the rest. Just don't see the logic behind that. I don't see the logic behind them going right now. Like, just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's not like Chelsea or Manchester City or Liverpool or whatever. You just get rid of a manager and bring someone in just like that. It doesn't work that way. I think people need to get behind him and support him, because he's given more to Dublin than probably anyone else has. Do you know what I mean? So like, you need to give him time. He deserves that. It's early in the league and there's a lot of cause for concerns. Are the new players coming in as good as what the crop has been of recent years? Definitely not. And there's probably going to be a transition. And I think for Desi Farrell and his coaching team, it's going to be about developing players maybe over the next couple of years. And I wouldn't expect Dublin to win the All-Ireland this year, but I think it's going to be about developing players, getting players up to the level, trying different players out, finding more your best starting 15 and then going from there. And look, Con O'Callaghan, James McCarthy, Mick Fitzsimons, surely they come back into this game. They were named in the starting 15 against Kerry. Well, McCarthy and Con O'Callaghan were, and then for whatever reason weren't even in the squad. I mean, it was bizarre, but it was like they got lost on the way down to Tralee or something. I really don't know. Or maybe they just stopped off at a pub and said, you know what, we're just gonna chill here. I don't know, but surely they come back in here, because I understand maybe some managers not giving players game time because maybe they've Sigerson Cup commitments or club commitments, all the rest. Like Con and McCarthy, they don't have any other commitments, at least football-wise anyway, from what I know. Maybe in their personal lives they do, but in terms of football anyways, there's no big commitments or big distractions really getting in the way there. And even a lot of players who are playing Sigerson Cup, like Clifford and Tommy Conroy, who's obviously injured now, but, they were playing Sigerson Cup and playing inter-county football. Even some players playing clubs, all three. So you would expect those players to come back into there. You need to get them back into the team, get us into shape, get Con back into the player that we know he is. I put McCarthy back in midfield alongside Fenton. I think that's our best midfield partnership right now. Keep Brian Howard at the wing-back position because he was brilliant against Kerry. And I think that's the way we should go about it against Mayo. I suppose for a Mayo point of view, look, they're going to bring the fight. They're going to bring the hunger. They're not going to back down. They're not going to lie down. Even if they fall 3, 4, 5 points down, they're not going to be out of this game. They're always going to be in with a chance. And that's the worry from a Dublin point of view, is that against Kerry, when we had to fight, when we had to dig deep, we didn't at all. Kerry hit 1-9 without reply, and Dublin just didn't do anything at all. Like, just let the game drift by them. Didn't close down any of the spaces. We're all over the place, really. Positionally, in terms of organisation, just nothing there. And with it being at Croke Park, with having the home fans behind them, you would expect there to be more of a fight. And I think that's the main thing from a Desi's point of view, is we need to start showing fight, hunger, determination, putting bodies on the line, crunching tackles, just really, really going for it, making a game, making the other team feel like they have a game on their hands. Because even Armagh always looked like they were going to win it. It just never really looked like we were going to come back into it. And same against Kerry, So, and also in terms of the league position as well, like, you lose this game and relegation's a possibility already, but it looks even more possible. And going to Newbridge next weekend as well, that's going to be a tough one as well. That's going to be a tough one. So look, it's such a tough one to call. Obviously, Mayo missing Tommy Conroy, who's injured. Still no Cillian O'Connor. I think Ryan O'Donoghue's going to have a huge influence in this game. He was brilliant against Donegal last time out. Brilliant at Croke Park as well. If Mick Fitzsimons comes back into the Dublin team, maybe he picks him up, or maybe John Small goes on him. I'm not sure. We'll see kind of what happens there. I would be worried. We've seen Dublin go with a very inexperienced defence against both Kerry and Armagh. I'd be worried if we did that again. I don't think I think Mayo could run rings around us. I really do if we do that. That's no disrespect to the younger players that are coming in, but I just think this Mayo team are at a different level going forward right now. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully there's a bit more experience in that defence. I'm expecting a response. I'm expecting a fight back, but I'd be surprised if we won the game, in all honesty. So I'm going to go with a draw. I think a draw is probably, maybe I'm thinking in more hope than anything else. But it's going to be interesting, obviously. And you're looking at Mayo and their midfield as well, of Matthew Ruan. They still have Conor Loftus to come back in as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in regards to that. But Jason Duffy's obviously been very impressive as well. Jeremy O'Connor kicking a point the last day as well. Brendan Harrison, it was nice to see him back the last day. So still have a couple of players like to come back. Aidan O'Shea's been on the bench the last 2 days, albeit he's come off the bench in both games. So look, still Mayo still have a couple of players to come back as well, and I'm sure to be gunning for this game. But I think given what happened last year as well, in that obviously beaten semi-final, I think Dublin need to respond here. They really do. They need to turn up, and they need to start fast. So we'll see what happens, but we're gonna go with a draw in the game, and and there will be a live watch along stream as well for the Dublin and Mayo game live on the channel as well. For those of you who don't know who that is, or don't know what that is, that's basically where I react to the game, don't show the game. That's what I have to clarify. But show myself watching the game, reacting to the game, discussing the game, interacting with some of you lads, obviously, in the comments. Long-term subscribers will know I've done this before. I did it for the Dublin and Mayo All-Ireland semi-final last year. One of the most viewed videos on the channel, so that's the reason why we're we're going ahead and doing it again, and we'll show a quick clip of when I watched the game last year. Can we do that? We'll move over here. So hopefully you lads can hear this now. We'll play this quickly. Mayo have a really big chance now. Dublin have been rattled. They've been so poor in the second half. 3 points. Really, really poor. 14-14. Lovely bit of play there from Tommy Conroy. Lovely points. Tommy Conroy, black card here for Colin Pascal. Intentional body collide was cutting off his path. Yeah, probably fair. I mean, did he see him? Was it intentional? I don't know. But here we go. I mean, look, listen, Mayo have the majority of extra time and an extra man. I mean, if there was ever a chance to beat Dublin, this is it. Long ball gets floated in. Sean Bugler there puts it wide. That's, that's huge confidence boost. I mean, I just can't believe Dublin are in this situation. Like, so comfortable at half time, 10 points to 4, controlling the game, looking like the Dublin of last year, and then again. Right. Yeah, so hopefully some of you lads could hear that there. So that was just the the highlights video of my reaction to Dublin and Mayo last year during the stream. So there will be a live watch along stream, so make sure to come along. And if you want to watch the game, of course it's on RTE or whatever, but feel free to mute it and come along and listen to I suppose my own reaction, my own thoughts on the game as it happens live. So yeah, as we said there, I think that game will finish in a draw. Maybe that's out of more hope than anything else, but we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And I am recording this live, by the way, so feel free to get your comments in as well for your own predictions and all the rest and what you think will happen in the game. We'll move on to Division 2. Derry and Cork, big game for both teams. And look, it's a big game for Derry in particular because they started very well in the opening 2 games against both Offaly and Down. 2 games they were expected to win. I think a lot of people would look at Offaly and Down as 2 teams to get relegated. And for Derry, I mean, can they pop the cork in their champagne in their wine? But that's a terrible joke, isn't it? That's awful joke. But Derry, look, I think they'll have enough to win this one. Surely, I mean, they've far too much quality all across the board. And Conor Glass, Emma Bradley, obviously a few of those Slot Neal lads in Shane McGuigan, Brendan Rodgers, like they would have came straight off of an All-Ireland club hurling semi-final then into the Derry team. So it would have taken them a while to be integrated and come back into the team. Although Shane McGuigan actually had a brilliant day the last time out against Offaly. So they'll have more game time. I think the week's break would have suited them perfectly. And I think they'll go into this in great form. And this is a time now where they need to show that they are favourites here because, as much as we give Derry a lot of credit, as much as we know they've got the quality, we still haven't really seen them go up against too many top quality oppositions. And there's still that fear of unknown of, are they as good as what we think they are? Like we only really kind of ever seen them against Donegal, so it's a hard one to know. And we know the talent that they have. Like we've seen obviously some of the players playing at a club level and all the rest. We know they're a great team, but I think it's about proving it now. And look, Cork will want to, upset the Derry party in many ways. They'll want to upset that party because they're going to have some of the Bars lads probably back in there, and Ian Maguire. Could we see Brian Hayes come in? Come into the team as well. They've obviously had a bit of a transition in I suppose in this year. Like Luke Connolly's obviously opted out now. Rory Dean. Brian Hurley's been in phenomenal form for Cork. I mean, he has been top class playing in full forward. I mean, he's been the man who's really been carrying this Cork team in many ways. He's been absolutely brilliant. And Mark Cronin obviously coming in. Like, you've got a good couple of young players coming in there that maybe it's a year or two before we see the best of them. It's probably going to take a while before they really click into gear. You've obviously got Blake Murphy coming in there, and the likes of Cathal O'Mahony still to come back in. So, for Cork, I don't see them getting relegated. I don't see them getting promoted either. They will need to win a game at some point soon because, the longer they go without winning, the more the pressure ranks up. And, either Meath or Down are going to pick up points this weekend as well, which means that Cork are going to drop even further down the table as well. So, bit of pressure here for Cork. I think the most important thing here is producing a good performance. I think once, if they're beaten by 1 or 2 points, I don't think it's the end of the world. But I think just producing a good performance, staying in the game, giving Derry a couple of problems, I think is the main thing. But I do think Derry will have enough here and win the game by 2 points. Meath and Down, we were just touching on that game there. I mean, look, this is huge. This is absolutely huge for both counties. It really is because, in particular for Meath, I think, because if they lose this game, their relegation is serious possibility. And I know, I've seen some people commenting on some of the recent YouTube videos about injuries and all the rest. Like, I still see a lot of those players on the bench. So, they're still in the squad. So if they're not fully fit and they're injured, why, they're still in the squad. So, maybe they mightn't be fully fit. But then it begs the question, well, why aren't other players being on the bench that can get, that should be maybe given an opportunity? I don't know what it is with Meath. I think it looks like there's a big confidence issue in that team, in my opinion. Like, scored 1-1 in the opening 7 minutes against Roscommon. And then, once Roscommon hit a purple patch and hit a run of form, Meath just couldn't turn the tide at all. And they didn't get going again until late in the second half. And I think they scored 1-1 in the first half, and that was it. They seem to have these massive patches in games where they just become non-existent and don't do anything in the game and suddenly start missing chances and all the rest. And, I've seen this too much from Meath down the years. In the games against Dublin, for example, where their heads would just go completely. And there just seems to be a massive mentality issue really within the team. And I think if there was a sporting director role in Gaelic football or something like that, I think Andy McEntee would be perfect for Meath, because you've seen the players he's brought in and you've seen sort of that transition period that he's been a part of and how well he's done. But in terms of actually getting the best out of this team, I'm just not too sure he's the man to do that, in all honesty. I really don't, because they do have talent. They really do. And we've been kind of waiting for a while, going back as far as 2019, we've been hearing this Meath team is going to click into gear now in the next couple of years. And it just, it looks like they're actually getting worse. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, so they need to really start clicking into gear now. And this is the type of game that they really do need to be winning, because Down are, they've had a lot of changes in players, obviously, in the past couple of years. A lot of players not there and often out. And we've seen, obviously, what Kilcoo done at the weekend. And, it is kind of mad, because if you were to bring in players like Micheál Rooney, Niall O'Kane, who else? Drom Johnston, players like that into that Down team, they'd probably be up there competing for Division 2, So it's kind of mad with Down there, obviously with Kilcoo's success. And we'll see what happens. Like, maybe some of those lads might come into Down at some point further down the line. And I did record an interview yesterday with former Kilcoo footballer Dara O'Hanlon, and he talked about that a little bit more. So if you haven't seen that already, check it out on the channel. But yeah, look, I think Meath surely have got to respond here at home. They can't go down to Division 3. It'd be criminal. It really, really would, because Dublin are in a patchy run of form, but if Meath are going down to Division 3 and Dublin and Meath play each other in a Leinster semi-final, I'm still fancying Dublin to win it comfortably. Do you know what I mean? So, and even if they were to play Kildare in a Leinster semi-final, and lose that, they're then in Tier 2. So, they can't risk losing it. I think they'll have enough. With Jordan Morris, who looked good the last day, Matthew Costello, Cathal Hickey. Like, they've got good players. They've got good players and good enough players to win this game. They just need to have that belief, I suppose, within themselves. Owen Curry says there, Aaron, will you give a shout out to Mickey the Fall Riley, a big listener of the channel and a big Cavan, New York man out in the dugout in Sunside, Queens. Yeah. Well, yeah. Fair play, Mickey DeFell Riley, for tuning in and listening. I appreciate it. Big shout out to yourself there, and out in the dugout in Sunnyside, Queens. Sounds like a lovely place in New York. I mean, probably much rather be in New York than Dublin at the minute. Anyways, I know that for myself. But yeah, hope you're keeping well. Anyways, and cheers very much for your support on the channel as always. Roscommon and Clare, which is up next. You know, hard one to judge this because I've kind of wrote Clare. Well, I haven't wrote Clare off. I've said I'm not sure if they'll be promoted or be up there in the promotion battle, but they're one of them counties that you feel like at some point maybe the bubble's going to burst and they're going to maybe fall in around relegation. And I think it's just because Clare have never traditionally been a big footballing county. They've always been, they have to compete with the hurlers, and you see with a lot of other counties, for example, who have to compete with hurling in the county. A lot of the counties that do well in hurling don't usually do well in football. It's I think Galway and maybe Dublin to a certain extent are the, obviously Dublin's the completely other way, but you get what I mean. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why you look at Clare and you think maybe at some point that bubble's gonna burst. But fair play to them, Owen Cleary, David Tuberty, a lot of experience. I believe Cathal Hennihan, who played for NUIG last night, is a Clare man as well. Might be wrong about that, but if you get him into your team, he could be a great player. He really could be. And Keelan Sexton as well has been tremendous. And Clare could win this game. They really could, because Roscommon haven't been in great. Well, they have been in great form, but they haven't had their best players in the team just yet. They haven't had their some of those Patrick Pearce's lads like the Dailies maybe to come back in. And I'm not fully sold on Roscommon just yet. I've seen a lot of people tipping them for promotion and all the rest. It's a hard one with Roscommon because we see them do this quite a lot, like go up to Division 1, come back down, come back up. And it's just a hard one to judge with them because you don't really know, where they're actually at. And, this could be a game where Clare just turn up and potentially turn Roscommon over. So it's a hard one to judge, and it'd be interesting to see the level that Clare are at. So I think I might go for a draw in this one. Galway and Offaly. Yeah, I mean, you would have to fancy Galway, wouldn't you? At home, having won their opening 2 games comfortably enough, obviously against both Meath and Down. Never really looked in doubt. Even in the Down game, when Down started to come a little bit back into it, we saw, Galway struggled a little bit, but even at that, they always were going to win the game. Not in a month of Sundays where Down going to come back into that. Obviously, we had the Sigerson Cup final last night. You had Tom McElhan, who was playing that day, or who was playing, a couple of other Galway lads involved there as well. So will they be rested for this game? Maybe. Maybe, there might be some other players that might come back in there. For Offaly, look, it's tough for Offaly because, I feel like they've probably been promoted to Division 2 at the wrong time, because they've probably got one of their best up and coming forwards in Keane Farrell, who's out injured with an ACL, and then their under 20 players who won the All Ireland's probably just a year too soon for them. They don't seem to be quite getting the game time, so it's probably a tough. You could see a world where Offaly go down to Division 3 but come back up to Division 2, and then in 2024 maybe look a lot better in Division 2, and maybe solidify themselves as a Division 2 team, a bit like a Clare, and maybe make a push at Division 1. You wouldn't see that being completely out of place. I was just checking there, just making sure this game is actually at home for Galway. I think it is. So yeah, I think Galway. I think regardless, even if it was away, I think Galway will have enough there. They have more than enough quality. Maybe still have Damien Comer to come back in at. He obviously came off the bench the last day. Maybe he'll start this day. But obviously the likes of Tom O'Callaghan, who played in Sigerson Cup during the week, Matthew Tierney, who played as well. So maybe there might be a little bit of rotation there. Jack Nolte with a couple of comments there in terms of predictions. Galway 3-13, Offaly 10 points. Probably a fair prediction there. Down gonna beat Meath. I think 3-11 to 1-13. That's a big call. Down Down have been struggling with goals so far, though, so I don't know if they'll have enough. But we'll come back to some of them other predictions a little bit later. But we'll move on to Division 3. Limerick and Louth. Limerick have been flying so far. 6 goals in their opening 2 games. Highly reliant on goals, obviously, to win them games. And look, they've been brilliant. And Limerick, I think a lot of people forget that Limerick are, they have their own academy down there. That's run by none other than Paul Connerk, who is in fact the part of the Limerick senior hurling management team, and a lot of people would be. Hurling fans will definitely know who he is anyway. And he's a former Limerick footballer as well. So he has his own academy down there, and you're just starting to see a couple of players come through there. Tactically, they look very, very well set up. Obviously, it's hard to judge them because we haven't really seen them because these games aren't on TV. But from what I've heard and from what I've seen in the last couple of years, you're just seeing Limerick kind of those little fine margins, those extra 5 to 10% that a lot of other Division 3 and 4 teams just don't have. I think Limerick have. They have brilliant training facilities, brilliant setup, a fantastic pitch, obviously in the Gaelic grounds, and you have good players in there like Ian Corba and Hugh O'Rourke and whatnot in there as well. So fully expect them to win this game. I tip Louth for promotion at the start of the year, and I think I believe I got that one completely wrong. Anyway, I definitely don't think they'll be promoted now. Anyway. Although the quality in this division isn't huge, so if they could put a run of games together, it wouldn't be impossible. But having looked at them in their opening 2 games, losing to both Laois and obviously drawing with Longford, you'd be very surprised to see them do anything from here. And yeah, it's an interesting one for Louth fans. Let me know in the comments down below. With Mickey Hart, what realistically, what can you expect there? He brought them up from Division 4 to Division 3. What realistically is he looking to achieve there? If they go back down to Division 4, it's kind of like back to square one again, and has it really worked then? I'm not sure. So I think for Louth, just staying in Division 3, I think at this point will be of massive, massive importance. And, for Louth, obviously you're looking at Samuel Roy, who's been outstanding for Louth over the past couple of years, kicked 1-3 against Longford the last day. And you are looking at probably that they need a bit more from their forwards as well, the likes of Downey, Ryan Burns, Jackson in there as well. So they will need a bit more in there as well. But yeah, I think Limerick will have enough here. The goals are massive for Limerick, so I think they will have enough in this game. And Jack Nolte says Limerick 2-15, Louth 1-9. And yeah, that's probably a fair. I don't know if they'll score as many points as that, but I think goals is definitely the name of the game from a Limerick point of view. Westmeath and Longford surely has to be another comfortable Westmeath win here. I mean, I know Longford are, I haven't seen them too much, but obviously from what I've heard, they weren't great. Obviously the last day out against Louth, nowhere near impressive enough, and still have probably a couple of players maybe to come back in there, like your Rian Brady's and whatnot. Or I think is Rian Brady's opted out, I think, has he, or he's not involved or something like that, or he's injured. So I'm not sure, but I think with Westmeath, they should be winning this game comfortably enough with John Heslin, Luke Loughlin, Ronan O'Toole, these kind of lads. They had a tricky enough opening 2 games. Wicklow's that was a tougher game than probably people expected. Laois are probably a team that's going to be up there battling for promotion. So for Westmeath to come through that and win the game, and win those 2 games, it puts them firmly in the promotion battle there as well. As a Longford man, I think Derby may help, but Westmeath are way better right now, 2-15-10. Yeah, I think Westmeath should win it comfortably enough, really, shouldn't they? I mean, they've more than enough quality. They probably shouldn't. They're in this division for a reason, obviously, after what happened to them last year in Division 2, but I think they're good enough to be up there in Division 2, in my opinion. I do think they are the best team in this division, and they should be promoted comfortably enough. And I fancy them to win this one by about 6 points, I'd say. Antrim and Wicklow, and, this is an interesting one as well. 2 teams I predicted to get relegated at the start of the year in Division 3, but Antrim's win over Fermanagh on the opening day really did blow things wide open. And then Wicklow's 2 performances actually against both Westmeath and Fermanagh probably has given their fans a lot of hope as well. That, maybe even without a sharpshooter like Shawnee Furlong, they're going to be all right and they're going to be okay. And they do have some good players coming through, good young lads coming through there at the minute as well. Connor Byrne and whatnot. So they have a good crop of players coming through there. Maybe things aren't, maybe things are a lot better than I thought anyways. But Antrim at home, Corrigan Park, surely gonna, have enough here, in my opinion, especially after that big win over Fermanagh. And I think this is a huge game as well, just to show that, right, we're not getting sucked into that relegation battle. We are, mid-table, looking more towards promotion rather than relegation. And I feel like this is a game where they need to stand up and show, really what they're made of. And with Aaron Eastwood in there, who's looked very impressive, Enda McGinley's obviously done a brilliant job in terms of being manager of this team. So I think Antrim should have enough, but it's going to be it's like a lot of these games, really. They're so hard to call, these Division 3 and 4 games, because they could really go either way. And because we only get maybe 10 seconds of airtime on Allianz League Sunday, it does make it very hard to know, what way teams are going to play or what way they're going to set up. But I do think Antrim should have enough here for the victory. Fermanagh and Laois, Fermanagh just they've had a high turnover of players in the last couple of years, and I did always fear that they'd go down to Division 4. I thought that last year. I thought they'd get relegated last year, and they actually didn't. They showed a lot of fight, beating Cavan, drawn with Longford, and a win away from promotion in the end, losing to Offaly in that one-off playoff game. So it's an interesting one. Like, when these two played each other, I remember a couple of years ago in Division 2, I think it was, and Fermanagh were winning the game comfortably enough, and then Laois just came back right at the end with a load of goals and turned Fermanagh over. So you're looking at Fermanagh and you're expecting response, but there just has been a high turnover of players, and they're looking at the likes of maybe Conor Love coming through and a few other lads, maybe Darragh McGurn, like to make the step up, and probably just not there yet. And Laois have looked good. They've looked good, but beaten by Westmeath. No real big shame in that. Good O'Byrne Cup. I thought they've looked impressive enough, you'd have to say, so far, from a Laois point of view. And the likes of Gary Walsh has been impressive enough. He didn't score the last day against Westmeath, but he was brilliant. The first day out against Louth, I believe it was. And Evan O'Carroll, I think, is a top class sharpshooter on his day. Gary Walsh actually scored 4 points against Westmeath, should I say. Owen Lowry with 3 points that day as well. Mark Barry. So, I think Billy Sheehan's got Laois motoring well, and I think they, it's always a tough one to go to Brewster Park. It's one of them grounds that's very tough to go to. It's a tough place to get to, out in the sticks, really. Very hard place to get to, hard place to go to, tough ground. Fermanagh fans very passionate, but Antrim went there and completely rolled them over. So I think Laois will do something similar. I think they'll win it comfortably enough. I think by 3-4 points there. Jamie Wolf says Wicklow and Kildare will win this weekend. Look, I think Kildare and Tyrone will draw. I don't think it's impossible that Kildare, it's not impossible that both teams don't win. I would be surprised to see them win, though. I think it would be a huge win for Kildare, huge win for Wicklow. But we'll see what happens there. We'll move on to Division 4 briefly here before we finish up. And Carlow and Waterford. I mean, Carlow are just in a big mess at the minute, aren't they? They're just really, really all over the place, and you feel bad for them, really, because there's not really, it's not really, like it's anyone's fault, really. It's always going to be one of them things with a lot of these sort of lower counties where they're gonna struggle to attract players, struggle to get lads training. There's always going to be a commute of Carlow lads probably living in Dublin for work and having to travel to Dublin for work and all the rest. And I seen the last day, I think they'd one score in their last game against Sligo. Colm Hutton scored 5 points, and that defeat to Sligo as well was actually the second heaviest defeat in National Football League history when there wasn't a goal scored. So that shows the context of how big a defeat that was. And you think of big results in Gaelic football. We've seen Mayo, absolutely hammer Leitrim last year. Mayo absolutely trashed Sligo. We've seen Dublin down the years hammer teams in Leinster. Kerry, we see what they do to teams in Munster. But when that happens, it's a Division 1 team going up against Division 3-4 teams. This was a Division 4 team against a Division 4 team. It was absolutely extraordinary stuff. And maybe it says more about how good Sligo are, and we have to give them credit. We'll definitely get onto them in a moment. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe some Carlow fans, if they're watching, I'm sure Carlow fans want nothing to do with Gaelic football at the minute, and even in hurling, they're not doing too well either. But it does seem to be that Carlow rising era that was there seems to have massively fallen off, which is a big shame, because you want to see as many counties competitive as possible, and it is disappointing seeing counties like Carlow struggling. But Waterford are probably a county that's always kind of been in and around this level, and they would have been disappointed with that defeat to London, because if they had won that, I fancy them to win this game. They'd be up there in the top 2, top 3. Not that I think they'd go on to get promoted anyway, but they would have been a little bit disappointed by that result. Dara Corcoran's looked good so far from a Waterford point of view. Conor Murray as well, the captain, has been impressive from what I've heard. So they've got a good couple of footballers in there, and I do fully expect them to have enough to see off Carlow and win that one. Sligo versus Cavan. Very, very intrigued by this one, and I really do hope that we get some sort of coverage for this game on Allianz League Sunday this weekend, and hopefully there's a way to see this game, because I think we're looking at probably maybe the 2 best teams in this division right now. Sligo, absolutely putting Cavan putting Carlow to the sword, really, in a resounding 23-point victory. Obviously beating Wexford as well. And it's one of them. It's like, are Sligo that good or were Carlow that bad? I don't know. But Sligo are looking good. They really, really are. And we've seen Paul Towie, I think it is there, or Luke Towie, for example, who looks very, very, looks like a very good player. He's looked very impressive at Sigerson Cup level. Noel Murphy as well has been exceptional. Like, he had 9 points against Carlow the last day. Obviously, Pat Spillane Jr. coming in there. Don't know if Peter Nocton's going to come back in. Didn't see him in the team the last day. He's obviously a player who plays for the Knockmore senior footballers, but he committed to Sligo last year. So we'll see what happens with him. Pat Hughes as well on the score sheet. So, like, Sligo have a huge range of scorers there. Is this a step too far coming up against a Cavan team that clearly do have their heads screwed on at the minute after what has been a disastrous couple of years in the National Football League? They seem very set in their ways to come through Division 4. Leitrim and Wexford were probably 2 of the tougher games at the start, and they came through them with flying colours, really, and never really had too many problems. So it's a tough one, really. It's a hard one, really, because we still don't know where Sligo are at, where because we didn't see the game, obviously, against Carlow. So it's such a hard one to judge. So I'll probably go with Cavan on the basis of we know what they offer and we know what they can do, whereas we're still a little bit unsure with Sligo. And that's why I really do hope we get to see this game. So that's why I'll tip Cavan by 2 points. But this could be one of them games where Cavan slip up, and I do expect Cavan to slip up at some point, because they are that type of team that does have a howler in them every now and again. So this could be that game, but we'll wait and see. TV says NUIG have some top players. Galway will be strong this year. Absolutely. They look very good and great. I think the Sigerson Cup is brilliant for development of these younger players, and it's definitely been missing in the last couple of years. And obviously Matthew Tierney, Tom O'Callaghan as well, and even some of the other players as well, like Fionn McDonough, who's obviously a Mayo player. I thought he was actually probably man of the match He was absolutely brilliant, and top class performance from him. Dubs fan says, back to Croker for my first game this year. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling very positive for Dublin. Something just doesn't feel right. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, I think it's, I do agree with you to a certain extent. We live in hope that maybe we might be able to, because there's still a long way to go. Still, 5 league games to go, whole host of championship games. It's not the end of the world, but I think the most important thing that we need to see this weekend is fight, hunger, desire. I think maybe sometimes we get, as football fans, as sports fans, we get too overridden by statistics and tactics and this team are playing a sweep or this team are doing that. Sometimes it's just about working harder. It's about mentality. It's about, just going for the game and showing a bit of bottle. And I don't think we've shown any of that in the last 2 games at all. Like, I don't think against Kerry we threw in the towel once they got good and hit 1-9. And yes, the conditions were dreadful for us going down the other end, but we hit 4 points in the opening, before that. So, and obviously, yes, we were down to 14 men with Noel Scully being black-hearted, which obviously wasn't Noel Scully, as we very well know. But I think the main thing for this game is fight, because one thing we always see with Mayo is that fight, hunger, desire, and they never give up. They're always there. I want to see something like that from Dublin, and we haven't seen that really we haven't had to see it in a long time. But I think now is the time where we need to see Dublin starting to fight. Maybe go behind by 4 or 5 points, come back and win. I think that would tell us a lot about where Dublin are at. Wexford and Tipperary. Look, this is a huge. Every game is a huge game in any way stretch of the imagination, but this is a big one as well, because 2 teams probably some people look at maybe for promotion at the start of the year. There was always doubts over either side, because Wexford are one of them teams that every time they take a step forward, they can take a step back, and there's always turmoil within the county, and there seems to be a bit of a divide between the footballers and the hurlers and the county board, and there seems to be all sorts of issues going on in there. For Tipperary, I think it's just a lack of quality at this stage. I really do. Like Conor Sweeney scored 2-6 the last day, was brilliant the first day out as well for Tipperary. He's probably the best forward in this division, and he's still playing at that all-star form that he was when Tipperary got to the All-Ireland semi-finals and won a Munster title a couple of years ago. But yeah, they just don't have anything else there. Like, they've no Michael Quinlivan. They're relying on Sean O'Connor coming in, who's probably just not quite there just yet. And we don't know what level he's at, obviously, but he's looked good at under 20 level, to be fair. So a big game for both teams. And I think if any side do have any hope of a slim chance of being in the promotion race, they need to win this game. And for Tipperary, drawn with Waterford and then getting turned over comfortably by Leitrim, it's been just a huge regression, really. And it's hard to really know what. Obviously, they've had a lot of players who were there when they won that Munster Championship. They're not there anymore, but surely they shouldn't be as bad as this. Like, we're talking about them being down as maybe the second or third worst team in the country, and to go from being Munster champions to that in the space of 2 years, I mean, it's extraordinary stuff. So Wexford at home at Chadwick's Park. Well, I think they'll have enough. They should have enough here to see off Tipperary. I mean, the worry for Tipperary is, like, I would expect Conor Sweeney to probably still give a man of the match display in this, but Wexford could end up still winning. Conor Sweeney scoring 2-6 against Leitrim, but they still lost by, I think, 8 or 9 points. So, big worries there for Tipperary. So I think Wexford will have enough. In my opinion, 99 Aguero says Monaghan desperately need to beat Armagh in the Athletic Grounds on Saturday night, or we might be seeing 2 of the most decorated teams over the past few years in Monaghan and Dublin go down. Yeah, I think you're being very kind to Monaghan there in terms of decorated. I suppose just the 6 All-Irelands between them in the last 7 years or whatever, or just the last 8 All-Irelands in the last 11 years between them. But I get what you mean. Monaghan have been a very consistent Division 1 team in the last couple of years, and obviously won two Ulster titles in the early sort of 2010s or whatever. But don't think it would be a huge surprise if Monaghan got relegated. I think they've been knocking on that door for a long time. They've found a way to keep surviving, and they've found a way to get over the line. I think at some point that luck's going to run out, and I feel like this is going to be the year where that happens. But and from a Dublin point of view, yeah, look, losing to Mayo and Kerry in the National League campaign isn't the end of the world, but having lost to Armagh already, having to go away to Kildare and Tyrone back-to-back in the next 2 weeks. And I think we have to go away to Monaghan as well. I think we've only one more home game after this one, which is against Donegal. So, there's a lot of... there is worries there. There is. Leitrim in London. You've got a population of 32,000 going up against a population of 8.9 million. And I checked this before I said this, so don't try and correct me on that. So, surely if the population's right, London should have 15 better players than Leitrim. But we all know it's not always about population, is it? It's not always, unless Dublin become in the conversation. But that conversation's nearly dead now because Dublin aren't even that good anymore. But look, in regards to this, huge game for London. I mean, what a revelation this has been for them. And obviously I was joking about the population. We all know that, London's GAA sort of demographic probably over there is actually improving. And there's a lot of work being put in by Michael Maher and his management team and getting players in there and getting players committed. And, maybe this is the best London have looked since that year they famously reached the Connacht final. Would they, are they going to do anything like that anytime soon? Absolutely not. But, I think they can take a lot of confidence from winning their opening 2 games. And if they can go away to an Andy Moore and Leitrim side and give a good display, what a story that would be. And I think if they were to win this and turn Leitrim over, I think you have to then put them in the promotion race. But you would look at the opening 2 teams they've beaten, and Carlow and Waterford are probably at the lower spectrum, with all due respect to either team. And Jack Nulty says there, what a story London is, and absolutely, yeah, what a story it has been for them. It's been remarkable. But yeah, and going away here, I mean, if they could pull off a shock with Liam Gavahan as well, who's looked, he was obviously in the team of the week after the first week. But you would fancy Leitrim here. I think Leitrim are higher up the scale in Division 4, and this is definitely a tough game going away as well. To Park Sean McDermott, and obviously Leitrim coming on the back of that big win over Tipperary, good enough performance against Cavan as well. I think Leitrim are in the promotion battle for me, and they have to win this game. If they want to be in the promotion race, they need to turn over London here as well, because even if they were to lose, like London going 6 points, Leitrim on 2, obviously 4 games to go then, and you're talking about Clonagh. You're talking about a 2-game swing there, and it just makes life a lot more difficult for Leitrim. So I think it's a huge game for them. Emlyn Mulligan's look good. The last day, and Ryan O'Rourke as well has come back into the team and looked impressive. Reardon O'Rourke as well. So yeah, I like the look of Leitrim. I think they've done well with Andy Moore, and I expect them to turn over London. I think they'll have enough to win the game. 99 Aguero says Cavan aren't a Division 4 side. They're making blah of Division 4, but aren't a Division 3 team. That's why teams like them need the A and B league system back. Yeah, absolutely. And I've said it for a long time. They really do need to bring in like a reserve league or something like that in And I know teams have development squads and all the rest, and they kind of from what I know anyway, they kind of make their own the challenge matches and stuff like that behind the scenes. But something official or something like that, where there's an actual schedule and things like that, I think would be very helpful for lower counties. Only worry would then be it would also it would help the bigger counties probably more so, because they would get more games to try out younger players. But I think at the end of the day, you need to, you can't help one side of the country and not help the other. So I think that's, that would definitely be a good shout. But yeah, look, that's all the games anyway in the Allianz National Football League this weekend. In terms of players to watch out for this weekend, it's a tough one, really, isn't it? Be interesting, even as a Dublin fan, I've really enjoyed watching Ryan O'Donoghue, and it'd be interesting to see how he does against Dublin this weekend. And I think that matchup of who maybe goes on him, I think is going to be very, very fascinating, and might maybe decide who wins or loses the game. Because I think with Mayo having Tommy Conroy injured and obviously no Cillian O'Connor, if you keep Ryan O'Donoghue quiet, you're nearly there towards beating Mayo. So he'd definitely be a player to watch out for, in my opinion. Maybe Mick Fitzsimons or Con O'Callaghan to come back in as well. And Daniel Flynn could have a great game against Tyrone. He really could. That could be the game maybe where he steps up as well. We aren't to forget that London were 2011 Connacht finalists, so I'm glad to see them having a good start to the year. I think it was a 2013 or 2015. I'm not too sure. It was 2011, but nonetheless, I mean, absolutely brilliant to see London having a brilliant year, and they've been absolutely brilliant so far this year, winning their opening 2 games. So massive congratulations to them, and hopefully they can continue their story, because I honestly didn't think they'd win a game at all this year, and they've won, their opening 2 games. 2010 was the year they made the Connacht final, according to Jack Nolte there. So we'll rely on yourself there for that information. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Anyway, cheers to anyone who tuned in to the preview. If you could leave a like and subscribe, would appreciate it. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, if you could give the podcast a rating, it would help as well. And all the content will remain free for the foreseeable future. So if you could leave a like, that would be absolutely brilliant. And if you are subscribed, appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. It's free. Just hit the button, the red button there in the below down there, I think it is. And yeah, then, Bob's your uncle, Mary's your auntie. Perfect stuff. So yeah, look, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Stay tuned for more. There'll be plenty of match reactions coming out over the weekend as well. And obviously the live watch along stream between Dublin and Mayo will I'll get that premiered or scheduled up on the channel in the next couple of hours as well. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll see you all later.